2 weeks after that sunrise, I was walked out of my own building with a cardboard box in my hands, and the security guard wouldn't meet my eyes. The strange part? I could trace it back to one sentence my CO whispered at 5:12 a.m. Run with me. It wasn't the whole reason, but it was the match. My name is Michael Collins. I'm 38, a former Marine, divorced, and until that morning I believed I'd already survived the hardest chapters of my life. I'd been shot at overseas, buried friends, and still managed to come home and lose my marriage anyway. Now I live alone on Chicago's north side, paying a mortgage and sending checks that remind me what failure costs. I manage operations for Grant Logistics, big contracts, tight margins, and 1,000 moving parts that only look calm because people like me keep them that way. Lately, though, restructuring was floating through the halls like a cold draft. When executives say that word, somebody's life gets rearranged first. That night I couldn't sleep. Quiet is dangerous when your mind starts listing everything you can lose. So I laced up my shoes and ran. Chicago before dawn is honest. Streetlights, lake mist, and your own breath. I took my usual route into Grant Park, expecting empty paths. Then I saw her. Elizabeth Grant. 47. In meetings she spoke like a verdict, clean, final. I'd never seen her without a suit, never seen her without a shield. But there she was in a faded hoodie and worn sneakers, running alone. No driver. No entourage. And her right knee was wrapped in athletic tape, the kind you use when something hurts but you refuse to stop using it. I should have kept going. You don't collect personal moments with the boss. Those moments come with consequences. She looked up anyway, and said my name like she'd been expecting me. Michael. I slowed. Ms. Grant. She shook her head once. Elizabeth. Out here, titles don't help. Her voice wasn't cold. It was tired in a way I recognized, like carrying weight no one thanks you for. We ran side by side for a few strides. My heart was pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with cardio. You're up early, I said. I don't sleep well when people are making plans without me, she replied. That hit like a hook. Plans. She didn't answer. Instead she tapped the tape on her knee once, like a reminder. The hardest part isn't the pace, she said. It's not stopping when it hurts. I glanced at her leg. That knee looks. Old injury, she cut in. Charity marathon. I tore ligaments. A thin smile appeared, then vanished. Pain is honest, Michael. People aren't. There was my next hook. The CEO wasn't talking about her knee. At the fork where my route turned back, she said quietly, the company will get rough in the next few weeks. You've heard rumors. I've heard enough to lose sleep, I admitted. Her words landed straight on my spine. If you want to stay, you'll need endurance. Not the kind that looks good in a quarterly report. What kind then? Your own, she said. Then she looked at me, and the fog couldn't hide how alone she seemed. Run with me tomorrow. Same time. And don't tell anyone you saw me. Secrets are never free. But I nodded anyway, because one question kept burning. What is a woman like her afraid of? I went to work later with her words stuck under my ribs. The office smelled like coffee and caution. People laughed too loudly. Doors stayed half closed. Around noon, my buddy Jordan from finance texted, "Call me." When I picked up, he didn't say hello. "Mike, your name came up today." My stomach tightened. "Where?" "Top floor," he said. "Not HR. People who don't know you deciding things about you. Someone asked if you're close to Elizabeth." Cold moved through me. "I'm not." Jordan paused. "Then don't become close. If she's about to lose a fight, anyone near her will take shrapnel." I hung up, hearing Elizabeth's voice like a drumbeat. "Don't stop when it hurts." So here's the question I want you to sit with. If your future depended on staying quiet, would you still show up at 5:12 a.m. tomorrow? That evening I opened my laptop and found a meeting invite I'd never seen before. Operational Continuity Review. No agenda. No attendees listed. Just a time slot and a room on the executive floor. My throat went dry. In the Marines, the worst briefings were the ones with no details. You walked in knowing someone had already decided the outcome. I tried calling my ex-wife, not for comfort, just to hear a familiar voice. It went to voicemail. I stared at the ceiling until midnight, then at 3:40 a.m. I was back in my running shoes, standing by the door, arguing with myself like a man facing a cliff. If I went, I might get pulled into her war. If I didn't, I'd prove I was still the guy who walks away. At 5:11 I reached the park. The fog was thicker. My phone buzzed once. "You're being watched." Then I saw her silhouette coming through mist toward me at last. If you think I turned around after that message, you don't know me yet. "You're being watched." That was all it said. No name. No number I recognized. Just that sentence glowing on my screen at 5:14 a.m., while the fog rolled over the lake like something alive. And then I saw her. Elizabeth was already halfway down the path, running slower than the day before. Her knee was tighter today. I could see it in the way her stride shortened on the right side. She noticed me hesitating and raised an eyebrow. "You look like you've seen something," she said when I caught up. "I got a text," I replied. "It said I'm being watched." She didn't panic. That surprised me more than the message. She just nodded once, as if confirming something she already suspected. "You are," she said calmly. "So am I." We ran in silence for a few steps. My pulse had nothing to do with pace now. "By who?" I asked. She glanced toward the tree line, then back at me. "People who think fear is efficient." There was again that controlled tone. But this time I heard the edge beneath it. "Is this about the board?" I asked. "Yes." No hesitation. She slowed near a bench overlooking the water and finally stopped. I stopped too. The city behind us was starting to wake, but out there it still felt private, suspended. "They're calling it strategic repositioning," she said. "David wants to sell off 2 divisions and cut 300 jobs before Q4. It will make the numbers look clean." "And you?" I asked. "I think you don't amputate a limb to fix a bruise." That line stayed with me. Her knee trembled slightly when she shifted her weight. Instinctively, I reached out, not to touch, just to steady her if she needed it. She noticed the movement and held my eyes for a second too long. That was the first time something unspoken passed between us. "You shouldn't be here with me," she said quietly. "Not if you want to protect yourself." That text wasn't random, was it? I asked. "No." Another hook. My stomach tightened. "I was told yesterday," she continued, "that certain managers are being evaluated for alignment." Alignment with what? With whoever wins. There was. Choose a side. We started running again, slower now. "David thinks I'm too cautious," she said. "He believes bold cuts prove strength. And you don't." She exhaled sharply. "Strength isn't cutting people loose to impress investors. Strength is carrying them when it would be easier not to." I thought about my Marines. No one left behind. Not if you could help it. "Why tell me this?" I asked. "Because you're not pretending," she replied. "You look at problems directly. Most people look for exits." That hit closer than she knew. My marriage ended because I always chose deployment, work, responsibility, anything that felt controlled, over vulnerability. My ex once told me, "You're brave everywhere except at home." Elizabeth had no idea that sentence still echoed in my head. "You could take their offer," she said suddenly. "What offer?" "Don't act surprised, Michael. David doesn't threaten. He recruits." She was right. At 10 a.m., I found out how right. When I walked into the executive conference room, David Carter was already seated. 55. Precise. The kind of man who never wastes motion. "Michael," he said smoothly, "close the door." The blinds were half drawn. My chair was positioned slightly lower than his. Intentional. "We're restructuring," he began. "You're capable, reliable, the kind of leader we need in the next phase." There was the hook wrapped in praise. "I appreciate that," I said carefully. He slid a folder toward me. Inside, a promotion. Senior Operations Director. Salary increase. 3-year contract. My chest tightened. "Conditions?" I asked. He gave a thin smile. "Professional distance. The company cannot afford blurred lines right now." There was Clean and simple. If Elizabeth loses this vote, he continued, anyone publicly aligned with her will struggle. Struggle? That word means mortgage, insurance, dignity. I'm not aligned with anyone, I said evenly. Good, he replied. Keep it that way. When I left that room, the hallway felt narrower. At 5:12 the next morning, I went back to the park. She was there. You got the offer, she said without looking at me. How do you know? Because that's what he does. We ran in silence for several seconds. You should take it, she said finally. I stopped. Excuse me? Take the promotion. Build your future. Don't attach yourself to a fight you can't win. That wasn't the CEO speaking. That was a woman protecting someone. And you? I asked. She gave a small, almost tired laugh. I've been fighting longer than you've been here. The sun began to edge over the horizon, turning the mist gold. Why are you really pushing me away? I asked. She slowed, her knees stiff again. Because I know what it's like to watch someone fall for standing too close to me. That was the moment. Not dramatic. Not loud. But I felt something shift inside my chest, something that had nothing to do with corporate strategy. If you lose, I said quietly, it won't be because you stood alone. She looked at me fully then. No mask. No title. You don't understand, she said softly. When this goes public, they won't question my judgment. They'll question yours. I held her gaze. I've been questioned before. The sun cleared the skyline. And for the first time since this began, I knew the real decision wasn't about a contract. It was about who I wanted to be when the fog lifted. Because alignment isn't about sides. It's about conscience. And tomorrow, the board would vote. The board didn't vote the next day. They postponed it. And sometimes a delay is worse than a decision. By noon the rumor had grown teeth. Emails were shorter. Conversations stopped when I walked into rooms. My access card worked, but the pauses before doors unlocked felt longer, like the building was thinking about it. At 9:17 a.m., I received the message. Subject, temporary administrative review. That's corporate language for, sit down. Don't speak. We're deciding what to do with you. I was asked to report to HR. No accusations in the email. No details. Just a room number and a time. When I stepped inside, 2 people were already seated. Legal. Compliance. No Elizabeth. No David. Michael, the woman from HR began, hands folded, tone neutral. Concerns have been raised regarding professional boundaries. There was. Between. I asked even though I knew. You and the chief executive officer. The room felt smaller. I chose my words carefully. Have I violated policy? That's what we're reviewing. That's not an answer. It's a warning. They asked about the park. About how often. Who initiated the meetings. Whether I had discussed company strategy outside approved channels. Each question was calm. Controlled. Designed to create implication without stating accusation. Did Ms. Grant share confidential information during these encounters? Encounter. Like we were criminals. I kept my voice steady. We ran. Did she discuss restructuring? She mentioned endurance, I replied. They didn't smile. The meeting lasted 32 minutes. Long enough to stain your name. Not long enough to defend it. When I returned to my floor, Jordan wouldn't meet my eyes. My system access was revoked before lunch. Just like that. No public announcement. No explanation. My computer screen blinked to gray, and my badge was reclassified as limited. That's the moment it stopped being theoretical. I checked my banking app in the stairwell. 4 months of savings. Mortgage due in 18 days. For the first time since Iraq, my hands shook. At 5:12 the next morning, I went to the park anyway. She was already there. She saw my face and didn't ask. She knew. They moved faster than I expected, she said quietly. Administrative review, I answered. Her jaw tightened. Not surprise. Anger. I told you to distance yourself, she said. And I told you I wouldn't. We started running, but her pace was uneven today. The knee again. I won't let them use you, she said. Make a statement. Say we spoke only in passing. We did speak only in passing, I replied. You know what I mean. I did. Lie politely. Protect yourself. Leave her exposed. The sun hadn't risen yet, and the city lights made her eyes look darker than usual. They'll say you were trying to gain influence, she continued. Or that I was. Were you? I asked. She stopped. That was the first time I'd pushed back. She looked at me for a long second. No executive posture. No shield. I was looking for someone who wasn't afraid, she said. The words landed harder than the HR meeting. I stepped closer without thinking. Not touching. Just close enough to feel the space narrow. I'm not afraid, I said. You should be, she replied. Her voice was softer now. You don't understand how this works, Michael. They won't attack me directly. They'll attack my judgment. And right now, that includes you. There it was again, my name tied to hers like a liability. I can handle it, I said. Can you handle losing everything again? She asked. That one cut. She didn't know the details of my divorce. But she'd read enough in my file to know it ended badly. I exhaled slowly. I already lost what mattered once. I'm not losing myself too. Silence. Wind moved across the water. For a second, her hand brushed mine when she adjusted her sleeve. Not intentional. Not dramatic. But neither of us stepped away immediately. Then her phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen. The shift in her expression was immediate, CO mode. They've called an emergency session, she said. Today. For you. For us. She looked at me carefully now. If they force a formal review, it will be public inside the company. Your name will be in documentation. Let it, I replied. Michael. She said my name differently this time. Not as a warning. As concern. You have 4 months of savings, she said quietly. You think I don't know? You think I don't review risk exposure before I speak to someone at dawn? That stopped me. You looked at my file? I asked. I look at everything, she said. Then softer, especially when I care. There was. Not a confession. Not romance. But enough. I swallowed. Then you know I don't scare easily. She almost smiled. Almost. That's what scares me. The sun broke through the skyline, gold over gray. If this vote goes against me, she said, you will walk away from me. No. That wasn't a request. And this isn't a negotiation. For the first time, something like frustration flickered across her face. You think this is loyalty, she said. It's not. It's self-destruction. Maybe, I replied. But at least it's mine. She stared at me. And in that moment, the space between CEO and employee disappeared completely. Not because we crossed a line, but because we both chose to stand on it. Her phone buzzed again. They're starting, she said. And tomorrow? I asked. She looked at the lake. Tomorrow, she said, one of us won't belong to that building anymore. She started running again. I stood there for a second longer than I should have. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of losing a job. I was afraid of losing her. And that's when I understood. This was no longer about restructuring. It was about what a man keeps when everything else is stripped away. The vote happened without me in the room. That's how these things work. Your future gets discussed by people who won't say your name out loud. At 11:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. Access revoked. Effective immediately. No explanation. No courtesy call. Just a digital wall dropping in front of my life. I was sitting at my kitchen table when the notification came through. The same table where I'd signed divorce papers 3 years earlier. Funny how endings tend to stack in familiar places. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I opened my banking app again. Same numbers. Same deadline on the mortgage. For months if I was careful. 3 if I wasn't. I told myself I'd survived worse. But losing a job isn't just about income. It's about identity. Routine. The quiet dignity of showing up somewhere that needs you. By early afternoon, the internal news leaked through former colleagues. The board had voted. Elizabeth lost by 1 seat. David Carter would oversee the transition. Official statement. Strategic evolution. 300 roles marked for review. And mine? Officially categorized under conduct-related restructuring. Clean words. Dirty implication. At 3:07 p.m., my phone rang. Her name. I stared at it for a full ring before answering. Michael, she said. No title. No mask. They've terminated you. I know. Silence stretched between us. Not awkward. Heavy. I'm sorry, she said. You didn't fire me. No, she replied softly. But I brought you into the blast radius. That word, blast, hit something old inside me. You didn't ask me to stand there, I said. I warned you. And I stayed. There was a pause. I could hear traffic on her end. Not an office. Outside. Where are you? I asked. Parking garage, she answered. I cleared my desk. Just like that. No ceremony. No farewell speech. You're leaving? I asked, even though I knew. They offered me a symbolic role, she said. Title without authority. I declined. Of course she did. They think I'll fight publicly, she continued. I won't. Why? Because I won't let the company bleed in court just to protect my pride. That's when it hit me fully. She wasn't fighting for power. She was fighting for people. And she'd just lost. I can meet you, I said. No. It came quickly. From, you shouldn't be seen with me today. I almost laughed. That ship sailed. Her voice softened. Not entirely. There was something different in her tone now. Not strategic. Personal. I don't regret the mornings, she said quietly. But I won't let you lose more because of me. I looked around my kitchen. Empty walls. Half-packed life. Too late, I replied. Silence again. Then she said something that shifted the ground beneath me. I read your performance file the night before I spoke to you in the park. I figured. You were flagged for retention risk. High reliability. Low political alignment. I exhaled. Translation? You don't bend easily. That a flaw? In most corporations? Yes. The honesty between us now had no corporate filter. Why me? I asked. That first morning. Another pause. Because you looked tired, she said. Not weak. Just tired. And I recognized it. I leaned back in my chair. I didn't approach you to test you, she continued. I approached you because I was about to lose a fight. And I wanted one conversation that wasn't calculated. That was the closest she'd come to admitting vulnerability. And now? I asked. Now I need you to do something difficult. What? Walk away. There was the emotional break. You think I regret standing beside you? I asked. I think you don't yet understand the cost. I lost the job, I said. That was the cost. No, she replied softly. That was the invoice. That line stayed with me. The sun was lowering by the time we hung up. The apartment felt smaller than usual. I packed a box with company files and set them by the door, even though no one would come to collect them. At 5:12 the next morning, I went to the park alone. Fog again. Cold again. But no silhouette waiting. I ran anyway. Halfway through the path, my legs slowed. Not from exhaustion. From realization. For years, I'd chosen stability over risk. Career over connection. Control over honesty. My marriage ended because I was always somewhere else. Physically present, emotionally distant. And now? I'd finally chosen something without calculating the outcome. And I had nothing to show for it. Or so I thought. When I reached the lake bend, I saw her. Not running. Standing. Her knee was taped tighter than before. She wasn't in workout clothes. Just a coat and gloves. No shield. No board. No authority. Just Elizabeth. You said to walk away, I called out. She looked at me steadily. I hoped you would, she replied. And if I don't? She stepped closer. Then understand this clearly, Michael. I am no longer CEO. I have no power to protect you. No influence to offer. No title to hide behind. Good, I said. A flicker of surprise crossed her face. I don't want protection, I continued. I want truth. The wind cut across the water. You deserve someone who isn't falling, she said quietly. We're all falling, I replied. Some of us just pretend it's controlled. Her breath caught slightly at that. For a long second, neither of us moved. Then she said it. I'm afraid. Not of the board. Not of reputation. Afraid. I stepped closer. So am I admitted. No touching. No dramatic gestures. Just two adults standing in cold morning air with stripped-down honesty. The company was my life for 20 years, she said. I don't know who I am without it. You're the woman who didn't sell 300 people to save a headline, I replied. Her eyes changed. Not stronger. Softer. I don't know what happens next, she said. For the first time, I answered, neither do I. The city behind us kept moving. Indifferent. But there, at the edge of the lake, something shifted. Not romance. Not triumph. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't thinking about the building I lost. I was thinking about the woman standing in front of me, without a title, and wondering if this was where my real life finally began. 3 months after I lost my job, I stopped checking my phone first thing in the morning. That might not sound like much, but when you've built your identity around emails, meetings, and being needed, silence can feel like judgment. For a while, I measured my worth in missed calls. There weren't many. The company moved on quickly. They always do. David Carter stepped in as interim CEO. The press release praised decisive leadership. 300 employees received polite severance packages and security escorts. I wasn't one of the 300. I was the example. Conduct-related restructuring. A phrase clean enough to frame. At first, anger kept me steady. Then pride did. The neither. I took a temporary contract job managing logistics for a regional supplier. Smaller office. Fewer suits. Real problems. Real people. The pay was lower, but no one looked at me like I carried a rumor around my neck. And every morning at 5:12, I still went to the park. Sometimes she was there. Sometimes she wasn't. We didn't speak for nearly 2 weeks after that morning by the lake. Not because we fought. Because we were recalibrating. Stripped of structure, stripped of roles, two people trying to figure out whether what remained was strong or just reaction. Then one morning she was already running when I arrived. No coat this time. No executive posture. Just Elizabeth, slower than before, knee-taped but steady. You look different, I said when I caught up. So do you, she replied. I'm underemployed, I said lightly. She almost smiled. I'm unemployed. We ran in silence for a while. The lake was calmer that day. Early spring edging out the cold. David's plan isn't holding, she said eventually. I didn't ask how she knew. People like her don't lose awareness just because they lose titles. Investors don't like instability, she continued. And morale affects numbers. You sound almost vindicated, I said. I'm not, she answered. I don't want to be right. I wanted to be useful. That line said everything about her. We slowed near the usual fork in the path. I've been offered a chance to consult for smaller firms, she said. Family-owned companies. The kind that don't measure value only in stock prices. That sounds like you, I replied. It sounds small, she said quietly. It sounds honest. She studied me for a second. You're different too, she said. Less armored. I don't have anything left to defend. That's not true. What do I have? I asked. She didn't hesitate. Choice. That word landed heavier than any corporate title. Over the next few weeks, something subtle changed. We stopped talking about the board. Stopped talking about David. Stopped talking about what we'd lost. Instead, we talked about her daughter in Boston. About my father's stubborn refusal to use hearing aids. About how strange it feels to start over in your 40s. One morning, halfway through the run, her knee buckled. Not dramatically. Just a misstep. She caught herself before I could reach her, but this time she didn't pretend it was nothing. I hate this, she muttered. The pain. I asked. No. The reminder. She sat on the low stone wall by the water. For 20 years, she said, I was the person people leaned on. I knew the answers. I made the calls. Now I don't know what tomorrow looks like. I sat beside her. For years, I said, I hid inside structure, deployment schedules, operational plans, corporate ladders. I thought stability was strength. And now, she asked, now I think strength is standing still long enough to admit you're scared. She looked at me carefully. I was scared to keep you close, she said. Not because of gossip. Because I didn't want to need anyone. There was. Not dramatic. Just honest. I didn't stand beside you because you were so, I said. I stood beside you because you didn't cut those jobs. She nodded once. I know. The sun edged higher. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced at it and shook her head slightly. They want me back, she said. My chest tightened before I could stop it. As what? I asked. So. The wind shifted. And? She looked at the water instead of me. I declined. Silence. You didn't even hesitate? I asked. I did, she said. But I realized something. What? I don't want to go back to a building where loyalty is optional. That hit deeper than she knew. And the consulting? I asked. I signed the paperwork yesterday. There was a new path. We stood up slowly. She tested her knee again. Does it still hurt? I asked. Yes, she said simply. Then why keep running? She met my eyes. Because I refused to let pain decide my pace. That was the sentence that started all of this. I laughed softly. You know you've ruined that line for me forever. She smiled properly for the first time in months. Good. We started moving again, slower now, not pushing. About halfway down the path, she said quietly, Michael? The way she said my name felt different. Yes. If we do this, if we choose this, it can't be a rebellion. It can't be about what we lost. It won't be, I said. It has to be intentional. I nodded. I'm not running from anything anymore, I replied. And I'm not chasing what I used to be. She slowed, turned toward me fully. For the first time in my life, she said, I don't know where I'll be in 5 years. Good, I said. She raised an eyebrow. That means you get to decide, I continued. Not the board. Not the headlines. The city behind us was bright now. Morning fully alive. So, she asked quietly, are you still willing to run with me? I didn't answer immediately. 3 months ago, that question would have meant risk. Scandal. Follow. Now it meant something simpler. Presence. Yes, I said. But not because I need something to prove. She searched my face, looking for doubt. There wasn't any. We started moving again, not fast, not dramatic. Just steady. And as the lake caught the light, I realized something I hadn't expected. Losing the job didn't cost me everything. It stripped away everything that wasn't real. The title was gone. The building was gone. The illusion of control was gone. But what remained was choice. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't running to escape. I was running toward someone. Not a CEO. Not a symbol. Just Elizabeth. And this time, when it hurt, neither of us stopped.